Alrighty, so today is all about summary versus that commentary, the last L of smell. And we're going to start today with talking about how the big idea of a text is created by the author. He takes all of these different pieces, these literary devices, and through them, we arrive at a big idea. So our job then, as literary analysts, as people who are analyzing the literature, is to deconstruct that big idea that they have created using those literary devices. And we have to do that through our commentary. Every quote is different, so make sure you're paying attention to which quotes that you're pulling. You want to also make sure that your commentary isn't random. Use keywords from the topic sentence in your commentary to connect back to the topic sentence and thesis statement. And be sure to explain how each quotation shows the thesis statement, topic, sentence in action. Okay, so that will become clear as we go through, I believe. Okay, so when I'm talking about random versus relevant, here is a body paragraph over Macbeth. Where the kids have done smell, but the commentary, the last L of logic is kind of random. You see that because the speaker and the message are murder is never justified and only leads to more chaos as depicted in Macbeth when Duncan is found murdered. Okay, so our message then is that we are leading to more chaos because murder is not justified. And then we know that our message is being sent through Macbeth, the sender. All right. Our evidence is, for example, chaos erupts in the castle of Macbeth when Macduff discovers the body of the murdered king and spreads news of the murder throughout the castle, crying, "Ring the alarm bell, murder and treason." That is our quote from Shakespeare, page 70. But then the literary device and the logic for this child put, this quote shows that Macduff is able to react very quickly to any situation. It does do that, but we haven't mentioned a literary device of any kind. And then it says he is the type of character that a king can depend on. Both of these things are true. But there is no connection to a literary device, and there's no connection back to the message that murder is never justified. Or that it only leads to chaos. So instead, I want to see something more like this. Okay, so we have the same speaker or the sender and message, and we have the same quote. But this time, the commentary is much more relevant. It says, this quotation shows that Macduff is able to react very quickly to any situation. So it's literally the same sentence as before. But then we add even one of total chaos, because if you look back at our message, we're talking about chaos, right? So we're making that connection. He immediately rings the alarm bell when he discovers that the king has been murdered in an attempt to root out the murderer. However, his announcement has an immediate chaotic effect. Okay, so here's our literary device, this chaotic effect. The tranquility of the castle is shattered as residents and guests alike awaken to the horror of what has happened. Not knowing what to do, men and women rush about in confusion and bewilderment, their usual routine thrown into disarray as lives once characterized, the characterization there, by order are dominated by chaos instead. Okay, so we've pulled in our literary devices and we've made the connection back to the message. So here's a model of what some of you are doing. I'm seeing a lot of plot summary. Things like, first this happened as shown in this quote. Then this happened as shown in this quote. Then this happened as shown in this quote. And then this happened too. Finally, this happened. And all of this shows how ambition leads to corruption. That is simply summarizing the story. We want to use that E piece of our smell to just point to where in the story we're talking about. The biggest section of our smell should be the two L's, not the quotes. All right, there is a flaw in the logic. In writing a summary, you've only addressed the what question, what was said. But the whole point of analysis is to explain the evidence and to answer the why. Why did the author do that? So an essay without explanation is essentially, you're just writing me a book report if you summarize all of that, which is not what we're looking for. Commentary instead should explain, it should discuss, it should support, and it should elaborate. Use that textual evidence to demonstrate your argument. Talk about the importance of each quote and how it proves the thesis. Support your opinion, which technically is your thesis statement, and elaborate on that to make it more specific. Okay, that's our goal with the L part of smell. All right, so here's an example of what summary looks like versus commentary. Beowulf comes to Hrothgar's kingdom to kill the evil monster Grendel. When he arrives, he meets with the king and convinces Hrothgar to allow him to fight the monster. He tells Hrothgar all of these things. Hrothgar agrees, and Beowulf fights the monster, tearing off its arm. After killing Grendel, Grendel's mother seeks revenge by killing Hrothgar's wise friend. As a result, Hrothgar challenges Beowulf to kill Grendel's mother. Beowulf agrees and swims down to her lair below the water and kills her with a giant sword. Beowulf then cuts off Grendel's head, blah, blah, blah. This whole thing is just what happened in the story. But remember, I've read the story. I've taught the story for 15 years. I know exactly what we're talking about. So instead, just point at the piece in the story that you want to talk about. Here it says the story Beowulf shows that risky behavior can at first lead to great accomplishments, but eventually leads to downfall. First of all, Beowulf finds victory against Grendel, even though he tells Hrothgar this quote. In this moment, Beowulf takes a risk by deciding to fight Grendel without a weapon, especially since he has never faced a foe like this monster and does not know Grendel's strengths and weaknesses. Okay, so do you see how the quote simply just points to where in the story we are referring to? Here is another example for you to take a look at. Pause the video, spend a little time with this. If you have any questions, please let me know.